Hey everybody, I'm Carla with Race to Walk, and it is time for another episode in Hack the Saga. So, what is this? I originally started I started my channel back in 2013 when I started my blog, Race to Walk, but I started publishing regularly on YouTube in 2019 when I was publishing Bible studies and book reviews. And my tagline was sharing good thoughts about good words. And the words were so good that people stole them. And that led to an entire series of updates of why, just discovering what was going on. Because at the first, I didn't know why anybody would steal or be sabotaging me, hacking and basically threatening and sabotaging me. But over time, and this started from August of 2024 to today, I realized that it was people that I knew that was doing this, and that they I don't know. I mean, I was in the beginning, it was really weird to me because I'm thinking, you say you're Christians. These were people from the apologetics program that I knew. They literally went to school to defend the Christian faith, and then they're acting like a bunch of reprobates. And so it was hard for me to process that in the beginning, just wrapping my head around the fact that these people that I knew would do this. And just in the past week, I realized that that's basically the entire story of the Bible, isn't it? It's talking about how God has given grace to us, and we blow it a lot, and we take things for granted. We take that grace for granted. We take things that God has given us for granted. We take our gifts for granted. And it is grace that allows us to recognize that, right? And especially this, the past couple months, I've really been thinking about the book of Jude. And if you have read that book, go in the Bible, go ahead and read it. Or if you haven't, go ahead and read it. It's only one chapter, but Jude is talking to Christians and warning them about basically wolves in sheep's clothing. That these teachers, these false teachers that have, he said, when they come among you in your fellowship meals, and these false teachers, they're like dangerous reefs that are just going to wreck your faith. And so it shouldn't surprise me, right? It should not surprise me that these things are going on, because this has been going on since the very beginning of the church, right? So this is just another example of that. And people have to decide who they are and what it is that they, who it is that they want to be, and where it is that they want to end up. And I can hope that they make better decisions and better choices, but I can't make them do that. So anyway, that is what this entire saga is about. If you can scroll down here, this is episode number 68. I cannot even believe that I have been live streaming this long, but about this situation. But one of the things that I'm going to be covering today is things I wish I had done in the beginning on documenting what it was that was happening. So a couple of weeks ago, started to switch gears a little bit and talk about how you can defend yourself against people who are trying to steal your work, trying to steal your identity, trying to steal your influence, your relationships, your business, whatever it is. You may think, oh, I'm sure that sounds a little extreme. I don't think that's going on. It's probably, I know what's happening to me. I'm not unique in this. They didn't just suddenly come up with all of these different, plays that they do to attack me. These are things that they have already been doing. And it's like, some of the things are, like I said last week, I think sometimes it's like a chamber of commerce for criminals. They just know people in different areas. If they don't know somebody, they compromise somebody or get somebody on their payroll to bribe, or they get a contractor that can do a certain thing. And so it's nothing new. So the collection of things that have been done to me are probably might be a little extreme. I hope they are. I certainly hope they are, but I don't think they're unique. So what we're going to be talking today again is about creating an investigative dossier. And I talked about this last week. I came across this resource on Media Helping Media, which is basically a training site for journalists and also for trainers who train journalists. It was a game changer. It was like a light bulb moment I can't even explain to you, because I have been documenting this since actually December of 2023 is when I started documenting it. But I have literally tens of thousands of screenshots. I have written, so many words in all these different reports that I've done to different authorities. And I have so much, it's almost overwhelming. So this investigative dossier, it basically gave me like this, clued me in on how I can organize it and make it usable information. Because sometimes I'll come back across a note that I made, or, a past report, or a screenshot. I'm thinking, oh yeah, that happened. But this, so amazing. So last week I was sharing about that. And what I've been doing in the past week is I've been basically starting to implement it, and also researching. This would be a resource if, for a news story, obviously. But what I really want to do it for is to file it, or have documentation for a court case, because I'm going to file lawsuits against every single person that I possibly can. And so I wanted to make sure that, am I including the information that I should? And this is the thing, as I've been researching, I discovered that I really haven't been, even though I've been keeping a lot of information. But this is what we're going to cover today. So this is an overview of the stream. So I'm going to go a little bit over why you're at risk, because I know a lot of people probably think, you're probably like me. It's like, this is the way I was. It's like, I was just a single mom. I had graduated from the apologetics program. My big thing was, I had girls and Girl Scouts. We sold a bunch of Girl Scout cookies. I was writing Bible studies. What do I have that, somebody would go after me? So we're going to talk a little bit about why that was a very wrong mindset to have, and part of the reason why I'm in this situation right now. And then we're going to talk about how you can go on the offense and why you should. And also, I'm just going to give a little bit of an update about how some of this access has been happening. I'm pretty sure I figured out one of the ways that they've been getting into my laptop. And so I'm going to share that. And then we're going to talk about the value of your influence. And then finally, we're going to go over how you can journal your journey. And I'm specifically talking today about how you can use Proton Sheets with to build that investigative dossier. So it's a spreadsheet, and you're creating logs, and I'm using Proton now, because my experience over the past 2 years has been that Google's, have they ever had a reputation for security? I don't know. But if they did, it's a joke. And I do not trust anything with Google anymore. And so I have been trying to move as much away from it as I can. Obviously, some of the things I do that makes it a little difficult, especially considering I am streaming to YouTube. So there's always going to be that risk there. But that's what we're going to be covering. So why you are at risk. Okay. So this is just and we just went to Gemini right before I started the stream, and I said I wanted to have some news stories about the types of plays that are going on. Now, I'm going to read this, and let me just say that I do think this is kind of general. I think that with the advent of the widespread access of AI, and a lot of these things are, a lot of the crimes are being fueled by AI, or made a lot easier and accessible. This is broad, and I think it's a little bit dated almost, because there's a lot more scams running in a lot more unique ways. So, but I'm just going to read this, and then you can see how really, if you're a human being with a unique identity, then, and you have connections and friends, you need to be taking your privacy and your security seriously. So, anyway, she said, this is the response. I can confirm that we are currently seeing a paradigm shift in how cyber criminals operate. In 2026, the strategy has moved from high risk whaling targeted CEOs to high volume scam assembly line targeting the average person. And I just want to make a comment on this. We see these, these movies that these cyber criminals are these high techy people. They're like know the code and everything and can hack anything. That's not what it is. It's some idiot that somebody told them how they could run a scam, and they don't really. I don't think the people I know personally have that technical skill. I know that they don't. They just know people who do, and they have AI to do it. So it's not. It's not. I don't think like the movies. I don't even think they need to be that sharp to be able to do it. Just to be frank. Anyway, okay. So let's move on. Oh wait, I didn't finish it. Okay. Cyber criminals view the average individual as low-hanging fruit. This is what I asked about. The cyber criminals are going for people who are easy access and low-hanging fruit. That's what's going on now. Because the financial threshold for a single victim, often between 500 and 5,000, is frequently below the de minimis level where federal agencies like the FBI or Europol will launch a full-scale investigation. And if you go back through my updates, you will see that local police don't do squat. This has been my experience. I hope that y'all are in another area that they do. But anyway. Okay, so the strategy, why you are being targeted. Cyber criminals are utilizing scam as a service, SaaS models. They no longer need high technical skills. Like I said, they purchase AI toolkits that automate the theft of social media data. The jurisdictional gap. Most of these criminals operate from safe haven jurisdictions. Okay, I don't actually believe this. Okay, that's what the stereotype is, that they're in some foreign country like Nigeria, Asia, Europe, whatever, these third world countries. These people that have been doing this to me, they're in the US and they're professional Christians. They're probably selling your church some study materials off of plagiarized work. So don't just assume they're somewhere else. But anyway, parts of Southeast Asia or Eastern Europe, since the individual loss is relatively small, law enforcement often classifies these as civil matters or simply logs them into a database like the FBI's IC3 without active follow-up. Yeah, the IC3 I think is a load of crap. I think it's completely worthless. And yeah, like I said, if you go watch my other live streams, I mean, the things I have been told by police, even FBI about, oh, that's not a crime. That's not a crime. I don't know if there's any crimes here. Oh my gosh. Okay. Volume over value. By stealing $1,000 from 1,000 people, a criminal nets $1 million with a much lower risk of attracting a specialized task force than if they stole $1 million from a single bank. Key threats: social media identity hijacking. Scammers use bots to scrape your digital exhaust, public photos, captions, and friend lists. This shadow profile case. A common 25 to 26 trend involves account cloning. A criminal creates a duplicate of your Instagram or Facebook profile while using your real photos. They then message your friends claiming that you've been locked out of your bank account or in minor legal scrape, asking for a small loan via Venmo or crypto. The account recovery scam. This targets your actual login. Scammers pose as social media support using AI-generated emails that look flawless. Once they hijack your account, they often establish trust to scam your entire contact list. So what happened with my Facebook account is a little different than this. The account, so this is a built-in tool that Meta has. They basically move your data over onto another account. And the account that they moved me onto have been impersonating me since 2013, over a decade. So, but they did do the account cloning so that all the friends that I have on this account that they moved me over to, those are all cloned from people that I know, and it's all identity theft. So those are, I think, aggravated. I have to go back and look this up, but aggravated identity theft. I'm pretty sure that this is a felony, and since there's different states as federal. So, and again, like I said, these are U.S. citizens that are doing this, not people in foreign countries. Okay, the new frontier, AI voice and video cloning. Here's the most visceral, low-hanging fruit tactic currently in use. The grandparent scam using this is the thing. I think most people know about this. Using just 3 seconds of your audio from the video you posted on TikTok or public reel, AI can clone your voice with 95% accuracy. And so, that I think has been pretty widespread, but that people are aware of that. But it's not just that. I mean, people can use, they can use AI to clone voices, and they can cause all kinds of damage. Say that you're somebody else. I've had my phone calls intercepted. I've had people call me that impersonating people that I know, and then I'm told by police, well, it's not your identity, so they don't consider that a crime. They only consider it a crime if the person who was impersonated files a complaint against it, and the people the police that I've talked to think that it's not a crime unless if there's money, they've got money out of you, and that's not the case. The theft of money or getting that money, that's another crime. But the identity theft is the impersonation. Okay, so it's a crime when they impersonate somebody or take identifying details and information, like the photos. That's the crime of identity theft. Okay, they don't have to get a dime for that to be a crime. And let me just qualify this by saying I'm not an attorney. And I don't pretend to be one on Twitter, but I have good reading comprehension skills. I had phonics when I learned to read, so a lot of people didn't. Anyway, so I'm going to, some of the stuff. These are, this is just talking about why they stall. It's like many departments won't assign a detective to cases under $10,000. And I've heard from people that it's even higher than that they just if it's anything digital, then it's just okay, they won't do anything. And which is why the criminals continue and expand, because there's no pushback, right? Anonymity tools, use of VPNs and bulletproof hosting makes tracing the IP addresses nearly impossible for local precincts. Attribution, proving who sat behind the keyboard in a different country is a diplomatic and legal nightmare. Okay, so this is the thing. Like I said, there's this assumption that these cyber crimes are from people in another country, and that's not the case. That's not the case. So, it could be in some situations, but it's not the case in mine. Okay, so this is just some emergency measures. I'm not going to get into this, but they've been, I had asked about how they hijacked the, your account, your relationships, right? And they are trying to replace you among your friends. And this is what these people have done. So anyway, they do shadow cloning. It's like scammers no longer just make a copy of your profile. They ghost you, your existing one, to create a more convincing replacement. And they use AI bots to scrape your entire post history, including this is the thing. If they get access to your account, this is like talking about external. If they get access to your account in Meta, they can just move it over. They don't need anything external. And this is the thing. This is, I think, the tech companies on these social media platforms like Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, the rest of them. Have you ever tried to get somebody on a phone to be able to get your account back, or if somebody's stealing your identity? No, you can't. I mean, if you have a business account, a professional account with Instagram, you can pay $50 a month to get a real person. So it's basically like a shakedown just to be able to secure your accounts. So anyway, they've been banking on this Section 230, which says that internet platforms are not responsible for the actions of their users. But to me, common sense says that if you know about it and you don't do anything, then you are complicit. You are complicit. And there's a lawsuit in place right now where Meta had a 17 strike policy on child predators. That's not, oh, I didn't know what was going on. They absolutely know what's going on. And I have evidence from this whole thing that they had this account that I was moved on to, the sock puppet profile, that they knew was a fake one because it was on an advertising exclude list. I'm not going to get into that. I have one, the Predators of Facebook. You can watch that if you want more details about it. But anyway, these are some of the things that have been going on, but it's not all of it, right? So it's just some of these things I think are more well known. But I wanted to just have just a little bit of an overview about, so that you can see that it's not just, that you too are at risk, right? And even if you personally are not at risk, or you don't think that you are, you probably run into things, right? Like you know somebody who's had their Facebook account hacked, or you've gotten those weird messages and those weird emails, right? So what you can do, if there's enough, I don't know. I mean, the amount of just resistance to do anything, at least here in Salem, I don't know. But at least if you are somebody and you have a friend who is getting attacked and you're documenting the contacts that are coming, that you're getting, right? If you're documenting it and they're documenting it, and if you have enough people that are documenting it, then I think it would be easier to catch the perpetrators and to identify these rings, because that's what they are. They're rings. They're not working alone. Okay, they work together, and their goal is to isolate their victims so nobody really knows what's going on, right? So if you look at this as being part of a community effort to rid your circle of friends and your community of this vermin, then this is my advice to you, what we're going to be covering, right? This is going on the offensive. Don't just blow it off. If there's anything weird, just get into a pattern of documenting it. Not only could you protect your own identity and accounts and life, but you can help other people as well, right? So that is why I think it's important that this just become you get in a car, you put on your seatbelt, you have a checklist. There's a heavy storm that's coming up in the south, and there's a checklist for what you do to prepare for a storm or a hurricane or whatever. It's these are things that you can do to protect yourself and to document it, right? Okay. So the next thing I just want to talk a little bit about is I think I realized what has been going on with my laptop. So back in 2024, I was talking a lot about this. I had bought my other laptop had gone down, and that had been hacked. And so I ordered a refurbished Dell Precision from Tech Mobility in North Carolina, and I ordered it through the Newegg platform. Now, there were problems when it came to me. The main hard drive, was it the main one? No, it was the second hard drive, failed. So I was having a conversation with them, but I think what has been the issue is because I have Malwarebytes, which is supposed to be, virus and hacking protection. But I think what it is that because it was hacked from the beginning, right? it was compromised when it came to me. And when I got it, it was delayed for 4 days, and then I get it, and there was problems ever since. But I think what it was is that um, just from what I've been looking at in the last week, because they did something to it so my wireless mouse wouldn't work, and then I got a corded mouse, a wired mouse, and then that wasn't working either. So I was going through some registry things, and I was troubleshooting it with a chat model, and they had said export, if you go into your system registry and there's all these folders, and I don't know about this stuff, but anyway, I exported the system registry and I was going to upload it, and it was 157 megabytes. And so I asked if it was supposed to be that large, and they said no, it should probably only be 20 to 30 megabytes. So when I was looking at all the processes, what it looked like to me is like they have my account, my laptop set up as if it's like a subsidiary. There's like a network admin over my laptop. So they're basically controlling it. And I think that's why these antiviruses aren't working, because there's been a couple times when there's been, it's stopped some actual malware, but I think it's because the antivirus is seeing this stuff as normal network processes when it is somebody who has unauthorized access to my laptop. And pretty positive that this Tech Mobility in North Carolina was part of it. Jason Smith, who is one of the people that was one of the primary hackers, he lives over there, so I'm assuming this. And the fact that when they had that huge storm, when was it, October 2024, and the hacking started, that was like absolute confirmation to me that he was behind it. But it's still this network access. So I think that's what it is as part of it. The other thing is that I'm just going to show you this. So what this is, I had my email and log password for my iTunes Connect account, which is what I use to log in to publish, because I have a little publishing LLC to publish books on Apple Books, right? And it was tied to an old phone number that I didn't have. I was trying to get it off, and so I had to call Apple support, went through this whole thing, and they basically they were going to reset it. Let me turn this off. This is looking like it's lagging. Hold on. They were going to reset it, but I had to wait 15 days to get access. I don't know what that was about. That was kind of weird to me. So yesterday the wait was up, and I get in there, and it's showing as I have to go through another application to be able to publish. I'm thinking, what is the deal with this? I did this years ago. And it showed, you have to update your credit card on this account, which is evidence I had created this before. So I go into the profile, and this is what I see. So this is the iTunes Connect dashboard, and it's showing my permission as on this account. So do you see this? So up in the right, it says Effusion Media Group. And then do you notice this? All these read only, and I don't even have access to some of the functions. So it's like I have subsidiary access to my own account, which is crazy. And so, but I think this is what they've been doing to basically all my accounts, because they have been, and I don't know exactly why. It's been obvious that they've been impersonating me on my emails. They kept hacking the DNS or trying to get, access to my Gmail accounts that were associated with those companies. And they've had multiple logins on my Google Voice number, so they could intercept phone calls. So, and then they had, I've shown this before, but This was back in November. Oh wait, no, that's not. That's a Google Family Group. This is a Google Family Group that I found in July that I deleted, that I reported to the police about the people that were on it because that was unauthorized. I was essentially giving them access not only to every account I have or on that Google account, but also they could see my photos, they could track my location, super creepy, stalky stuff. And the Salem police has done nothing about it. So anyway, but what I was going to show you this is, no, that's the wrong one. Okay, I must have deleted it. I'm sorry. Okay, so what I was going to show you was that they had been faking my association with them with an unexpected journal, which I resigned from the board and cut all connection from them in August of 2024. They were still trying to fake my affiliation with them in November of 2025. I don't know what the deal with that was. I don't know, but this has been, I'm not going to get into this. I might have another live stream about this, but basically this has been a repeating pattern. It looks like when they hijacked all my accounts in August of 2024, I think they like moved my accounts, my business accounts, so that they're like restricted access to my own accounts. That's what it looks like. So anyway, so since last week, this is what I've been working on. I have this plan, right, to build this investigative dossier. I'm like, okay, I have literally thousands and thousands of screenshots. This is kind of overwhelming, but at least I can start today and I can go through this, right? And my plan was I was just going to try to keep up day by day and then do a day backwards. Okay, so when was it? Monday, Tuesday? Blew that because I go and I log into my Twitter account, and let me just say this. I had checked the sessions that were logged into my main Race to Walk Twitter account on my phone, on the app, and it wasn't showing any other logins. And I had changed my password. Okay. I log in and I'm checking the sessions on the desktop, and it was showing my login, right, as the current login on my laptop, and it was showing 109 other logged in sessions since November 4th, which is when I had changed my password. So what this means is the last date that's shown on there is the last time that particular session was active, right? So even though I closed down my browser and I opened it again, if it was logged out, that wouldn't be showing, right? And so if you're active again, that moves it up to the top of the list. And so this is 109. There was only one other login that was actually mine, and that was my phone. So there were 108 unauthorized logins, session logins. So this is what it looked like. This is my screenshot, and we're going to go over this. I didn't even do this right because I was doing this. I was researching what I should do, and then I find this. I thought I have to stop and document all this. And so this took me a number of hours to take screenshots of every single login and then document it. So here's the thing. When we're talking about the value of your influence, one of the things is that, the list of things of the reason why people hack your accounts or is, they're focusing on money. But that isn't necessarily the true influence or the true value of them doing that. A lot of times people do it because they want to steal your influence and your reputation and your relationships with other people, right? So if they have something, either a business, a product, or an agenda that they want to promote, and they can hack all of these accounts, particularly in this specific area. So let's just imagine somebody wants to basically take over a particular community or location and get a bill or something passed, right? An election. They can put out a lot of ads, but people are going to be, they're going to be on guard about that. But what happens if they just hijack a bunch of people's accounts and then have those accounts promoting this agenda? So it looks like all these accounts are for a thing, when really it's the hijackers putting that agenda out there. The other people around them that know that person aren't going to know that, right? But when I was seeing that, those 109 logins, I mean, this is the thing. Twitter as a whole is algorithm, and what is it's so controlled by IP that I don't know if they were posting things publicly on my account, I don't know if I would see it. I don't know. I don't know how far that goes. But back when I was doing the live streams in 2023 on Kabul Hope, I had shared that there was, I was publicly promoting a lot of information on Afghanistan and advocacy articles for Afghans. And so I would get a lot of messages from them. And one of the people that contacted me was they said that they were a Christian, they were persecuted, and I was asking, there were just some things that kind of raised some red flags, and there was a person in my group, an Afghan in my Bible study group, that checked it out for me, and he's like, yeah, no, he's not a Christian. And so this is the thing, when I first started working with them, I was told that before you can send money to help them, you have to search for their name in the Treasury database so that to make sure that there's no actions against them, or they're not restricted or blocked from receiving anything. And so I had thought about reporting that person to the Treasury Department or DHS or something. But the thing that made me stop about it was because I knew that the Taliban would basically just take people in jail, have their documentation. And so my thought was that the information about that I was being shared with me, it might not be the actual person, right? And so it could have been somebody stealing, using his identity to run these scams. And if I reported him, then he would be, maybe he was being held by the Taliban or something. And so he would be in a worse position than he was already, right? And so that's why I didn't. And so the fact that there's 109 or 108 unauthorized sessions, it makes me think, were they contacting people, impersonating me and my messages? Is this something that's hid from me? I mean, I know that there was something, they were doing that on WhatsApp, because there was a whole separate folder where they were carrying on conversations about people who were sending photos that I didn't receive. I saw that on, at one point I was able to see it on my hacked Google Pixel phone, which has been stolen. But, and then it was hidden from me. So let me just say this. If you've had somebody you think is me contact you, I have not had a conversation in DMs with anybody on any social media platform for probably 2 years. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. So if you think that you've been having conversations with me, then please, go to my website. You can send an email to contact@racetowalk.org. Hopefully I'll get it. Go ahead and report it to the police, and then have them contact me, and I will tell them, no, this is identity theft. Please do that, because number one, I know the people behind it, and I can get the police on their ass. And two, this would be confirmation. So if you had any sort of, you think you've had a conversation with me, either send me the information directly or just report it to the police and have them contact me. And then we can go from there. So anyway, as far as your going on to this, the investigative dossier, what I've been using is, what is this? This is this one. What's this one? No. Okay. What I've been using is, just because, like I said, because of everything that's gone on, I just don't trust Google anymore. And so I've been using Proton Drive for what I used to use Google Drive for. And I just want to say this, this Proton Drive has been around for a while, but what is newer is that they've added docs, similar to Google, and they just in December added Proton Sheets. So if you've been used to using Google Sheets, let me just say, it's not, it's a little bit different feel in the interface. It's not as smooth. Google Sheets has been around for a long time. This is newer. So just know that going in. For example, I was trying to copy a tab over. Why is this not switching? Okay, I'm sorry. I had this. Let me go to this one. I was trying to copy a tab over from one sheet to another. Didn't work. The copying and pasting was a little weird. So this is what I did. I had started just a real basic sheet, right? And just for documenting the log. So on that, the resource that I found that was talking about an investigative dossier for journalism, it really didn't give details, or at least I didn't see details of what to put on each of the things. It just said have an evidence log, have a master chronology, and have a cast of characters, and reference between the two. When I was doing more research on what I should include for legal documentation, there was a lot more fields. And so I had started with just the simple basics, right? And I had entered a lot of stuff. And then I get this other more complete template with more fields. And I've used Google Sheets for a long time, and so I was thinking it was going to be kind of similar to that. And so I was just thinking import sheet was going to work the same as copying tabs in. And so I did that into my original, which was dumb. I should have made a copy of it, right? But I did it into my original sheet, and it completely wiped the whole thing. And then I went back to version history to revert it, and it didn't revert. However, Proton actually has customer service. And so I just said, I wasn't even expecting them to fix it or do anything about it. I just said, this is what happened. This is what I did. This is what happened. And also I mentioned the thing about the copying and pasting being weird. And I got a response from a real person. Can you imagine that? Do you even remember what that's like? Yeah. And so they gave me a solution for getting that last history back. So I didn't lose all that work. And they said, yeah, we know about the copying and pasting. Users have said that. So anyway, so I just want you to be aware of that. It isn't quite, it's just has a little bit different feel to it. Just remember, it is a newer product. And the other thing I'll say, the other glitch that I saw was that I downloaded a copy of both of those Excel files or those Proton Sheets because I was thinking, okay, maybe I can just do it in Excel and merge them. And if there were things like the dates, it was weird. It was like the most recent entries, the dates when I downloaded it were corrected, but the earlier ones weren't. I don't know what that was about. And also keep in mind my website or my whole laptop that could be there too. So anyway, what is below here is a link. This is an affiliate link. So if you want to try Proton for free, go ahead and do it. If you want to support me in my work while you're doing it, you can go to this link that I have, racetowalk.org/go/get Proton Drive. But either way, I recommend going with, this is like, I'm going with Proton, number one, because I know that there has been access to Google. That's the first thing. That's beyond all the privacy issues with Google going through your stuff and, getting your data. So Proton is privacy focused. It's also Swiss based, and so they're not part of the Five Eyes. So you're not going to have any intrusive, invasive, federal agencies or their affiliates and contractors going through your stuff. Anyway, so what I've been doing, and this is still a work in progress. So I have just been kind of figuring out how to do it. And what I'm putting together is I'm putting together a digital toolkit that you can, I'm going to have a copy of the Excel file that I'm using for the evidence log, right? And I'm also going to have a little bit of a how-to, what to do, an overview of what to do if you need to document something. So here's the thing. This is what I am doing. A lot of this is written specifically for, like, just say other creators, or if you have online accounts or whatever. But I would just recommend anybody that has any sort of communications or any sort of interaction with anything digital to just have this in the back of your mind, that if these weird things go on and it continues being weird, then it might be a good idea to document it. Even if all you do is have a physical notebook and write it down, do that. When I was in real estate in Salem in the 90s, my license was with Coldwell Banker Mountain West. I don't even know if they're still around. I haven't seen any signs about them, but they had an attorney come in and give a class for one of their continuing education classes, and he talked about the importance of contemporaneous notes, to always write down what's going on. And I've just gotten in a habit of that. I've done that ever since, depending on what's going on with my life, sometimes more than others, but I always have a notebook with me, and I'm always taking notes, right? And recording things that have gone on. So in this digital toolkit, this is a first 5-minute incident response. And let me just say this. This is from researching best practices. Let me tell you, I have not been doing best practices. So when I say all this, I have not been doing all this. I'm starting where I'm at, and I'm going to go forward, right? I did not know until I was researching this that if they delete files off your computer, you're not supposed to copy things back in, because if you overwrite the information, it could have maybe been restored. Did not know that. So when you read this, I have not done all these things. And going forward, I'm going to try to do my best to do these things. Whether I can or not, I don't know, because just recording those 108 unauthorized. And that wasn't even all. That wasn't even all of the things I recorded for that day. I had I can't remember, 175 screenshots for that one day. It was just insane. But anyway, what this is going to cover is just an overview of if something suspicious happens, act fast, think clear. And this is what to do and what not to do. And these are disclaimers. I'm not I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to be on Twitter. I'm just walking through this, learning as I go. I'm also not a cybersecurity professional. Obviously I'm not. This is just what I've learned through, just really painful experience. And this is what I am going to be including in this digital toolkit are things that I, have either researched about or used. And so it's going to be heavy on Proton and things like Simple Login because that's what I'm using. And it doesn't mean that that's the only one out there. Again, I am not a tech expert. I am not a cybersecurity professional. Learning all the ins and outs of every single service out there, really not what I want to do. Just to be honest with you, I just want to what works for me. And again, when I started using Proton was when it was in July 28th of last year, 2025, when my phone was stolen. They had my authenticator app and they had gotten into my email. Somebody stole it to give to, the jackasses that are after me. Within 2 hours, they were in my email. And the only way I was really able to, I could have always moved it, but I was able to get into my Cloudflare account and I removed the email records off of it. And then they let me back into my Fastmail account, which is where I had my email hosted at the time. And, but as I was trying to move it, they kept cycling the password again. So I couldn't change it, couldn't log them out. So I thought, forget it. And I signed up for a Proton mail trial that day. And that's been the beginning of really, I think, the tide beginning to turn a little bit, starting to be able to get a little bit more control over my, my life and my mail. It was also confirmation that there were federal resources that were involved in the hacking of my stuff, which is not surprising because the people that are doing it are federal contractors. So anyway, but that's why you'll see a lot of things about Proton in there because that's what I'm using. Because it's privacy focused, because you're not going to have federal government, the U.S. federal government in your stuff or their contractors in their stuff because, they're out. Anyway, so this is just an overview. Again, this is going to be up on my website in a couple of days probably with the beginning of this. And this just gives you an overview of what to do, how to document it, kind of some step-by-step things. This is one of the things that was, here's the thing. The best practice is to take a screenshot of your entire screen. I wasn't doing that. Literally was not doing it. It also talks about how you can hash so it's basically you can create a hash for your files that you're documenting so that you can confirm that the files are unaltered. Yeah, and I didn't know that was a thing until this week. So that's what this is, a 3-minute hash, generate a hashtag, or hash, not a hashtag. Anyway, so that's this. This is going to be the digital toolkit for defense against digital dark arts. But anyway, that's what I've been working on. And so there's been some session hijacking this week. It hasn't been, I don't know. I think maybe for normal people, it probably would seem like there's been, I've had my sessions hijacked off my, to my accounts to get into my Gmail account. But it's just at this point, it's just so redundant. They do the same things over and over again. So relatively speaking, there hasn't been a lot of new stuff. I don't think. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. That's the thing. There's been so much I forget sometimes, which is why this is going to be really helpful. So I'm kind of a little bit excited about this because, again, I have all this stuff and all this information. And as I add it, I'm going to have something that's actually usable for multiple things. So I hope you'll join me in this. I hope you'll say, yeah, you know what? I don't like jackasses that think they can do what they want. And so I'm going to do what I can do to help in this effort. You can submit it to IC3. Again, it's the FBI, massive crime database that you can submit online. I personally think it's worthless. It's just my personal opinion. And when I submitted that 200-page report on July 28th, 2024, that's a significant date actually. Never got a response. And so not impressed at all. And not even an acknowledgement or a report number. Yeah. So if you want to report it to the FBI, you can, but I personally, I don't know. Anyway, the other thing is that if you want to get updates about what's going on, if you want to get a notification of when this this toolkit is available for download on my website, you can go to my website at resources.racetowalk.org. And that is my newsletter sign up. You can also see the past newsletters that I've sent since, I think it was November 1st is when I first sent it on this particular mailing service. I basically had to restart my mailing list because it just, I don't even know what was going on with the one I had before, and there had been so much sabotage that I didn't want to be using anything old. So I was just starting from scratch. Having said that, if you sign up for the newsletter, make sure that you watch for the confirmation email. If you don't see it, check your spam box, because if you don't confirm your email, then I can't do it for you. And so I have looked in my unconfirmed list, and there's quite a few people in there. So if you want to make sure, here's the thing, they were like hijacking my email signups in some way. So if you want to make sure that what you're receiving is actually from me, then go to resources.racewalk.org and you'll see all the stuff that I've sent. If you've received things that aren't showing on that page there, then that is somebody that has impersonated me. And be sure, I mean, you can or not, but I would appreciate it if you would let me know. Also, what I'm planning on doing is I don't think I'm gonna even have an option for Discord for discussion on this. I had a link to it, but it really wasn't used. And also Discord is going through they're going to be requiring, a lot more identity verification, which I just don't think personally, I think that's a control thing. I just don't think that needs to be on everything. So I'm just going to be adding, you can comment on my site now, but I'm going to be adding, kind of integrating that into a discussion forum so it can be more, more like a community oriented thing rather than just commenting on that one post. So anyway, that's it for today. And again, we've talked a little bit about creating an investigative dossier using Proton Sheets. And so be sure to sign up for my website or my newsletter at resources.racewalk.org so you can be the first that can download that digital toolkit with all the resources on best practices for doing that. If you're a creator, if you just are a person that has some friends that other people want to steal your identity to impersonate you, and you may not think that you actually are, but you might be surprised at just the conniving ways people will go to manipulate. So anyway, a lot of wolves out there, gotta be on guard. And I guess we'll sign up and talk to you next time.